All right. Well, we love being punctual. It's 6 o'clock on the nose, so let's dive in.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody. Good evening. We're so pleased to have you for Central Oregon LandWatch's virtual open house. My name is Ben Gordon. I'm LandWatch's executive director. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. While we aren't able to be together in person, we built a program that's designed to be interactive. We want to familiarize you with the work that LandWatch does to defend and plan for Central Oregon's livable future and hear from you about your hopes and vision for our community as it evolves. So here's our program for tonight, a little bit of what you can expect. You'll receive a brief overview of LandWatch's 35-year history, including some of our crowning accomplishments. From here, we'll look at the future and introduce you to LandWatch's vision, values, and core program areas. After this, you'll be invited to join breakout rooms where you'll interact with the LandWatch staff and board and share your thoughts with us. Before we jump into presentations, allow me to introduce to you LandWatch's Communications Outreach Manager, Caitlin Burford. Caitlin designed tonight's event, prepared the visual presentation, and will manage the breakout rooms, which is certainly no small task. Big thanks to her. As this is an interactive event, we'd like to start with a brief meet and greet. Caitlin, would you like to introduce us to what's to come next?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Ben. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. While we come together virtually today, we can feel distant, even though we know we are part of the same community. So I wanted to, if you can, see if y'all can engage with the chat and see where everyone is joining us from today. So what we're going to do is do a little activity where we're going to have you meet your virtual neighbor. So we want to take a few minutes for you to virtually meet the people here. So in just a few moments, I'm going to put you into a breakout room with a few people for a chance to meet some people here this evening. So if you've never joined a breakout room before, it's relatively easy. I will do the work on my end, and all you have to do is click join. So what we'll do is I'll have you take just a few moments, introduce yourself to the people in your room, tell the group where you are from, and really importantly, tell the group what you love most about Central Oregon. And I will bring you back here in about 5 minutes. All right, I think we're all back, and I will hand it over to Ben to introduce our programs and a little bit about LandWatch.
Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed a chance encounter with your virtual neighbors. Switching gears, let's look back on where we've been with a brief overview of LandWatch's history. 35 years ago, LandWatch was founded in response to a string of timber sales on federal forests outside of Sisters. LandWatch's founder, Paul Dewey, realized that timber sales were a formality to legalize, legitimize foregone plans to broker wholesale conversions of our forests, turning them into clear cuts. Paul, in response, formed the Sisters Forest Planning Committee to ensure the public had a say in how our forests were managed, standing up for wildlife habitat and the long-term well-being of our community. In the intervening decades, the SFPC halted many timber sales. The work evolved and began to include other environmental oversight efforts, including fighting a proposal to squeeze Wychutes Creek into an irrigation pipe, preventing unsavory development, including destination resorts, most notably on the Metolius River, where LandWatch's efforts resulted in the permanent protection of the Metolius Basin from resort developments. In 2006, realizing that LandWatch was more of a regional watchdog, taking on issues outside of the forests around Sisters, we rebranded to become Central Oregon LandWatch. So before we introduce you to the LandWatch of today and the future, I'd like to introduce our board president, Karen Lillabeau, to share remarks from her perspective as someone who has been inextricably linked to LandWatch's evolution, having served on our board now for more than 27 years. Welcome, Karen.
Thanks, Ben. Of course, this past year has been a challenge like it has for everyone. We're faced with a daunting task of hiring someone to succeed Paul Dewey as our executive director. And although it's impossible to replace Paul Dewey, we were incredibly lucky to find Ben Gordon to lead us into the next decade. It was also a challenge with all of our milestones this past year with the COVID, social distancing, we weren't able to really properly celebrate all of the legacy of Paul Dewey and all of his accomplishments in person. And we weren't able to celebrate in person 35 years of LandWatch and all their successes. So, that was a bit of a challenge. And then just also our continued powerful presence in shaping a more livable future with the leadership of Ben Gordon. Would have been fun to celebrate more of that in person over the last year. It's been a lot of exciting changes, but we'll just have to celebrate as much as we can when we get the chance. Despite the COVID challenges and all the organizational changes, we've still continued to strengthen and improve our ability to make a positive impact on this corner of the planet that we love. And we're enthusiastically moving forward. We have a strong new strategic plan that's going to guide us into the future. And we've got some energetic new faces to help us defend and plan for Central Oregon's livable future. So it's a very exciting time, and we're just happy with all our good luck. And speaking of energetic new faces, I guess Caitlin Burford, who we've already been introduced to as our communications and outreach manager, is going to, I think, give us some important trivia.
I am. Hi, all. Thank you, Karen. And big shout out to the LandWatch board. They're a really great board of directors, the best you could ask for, and have really been really pivotal in this last year in LandWatch's strategic planning process. So I want to give you a brief schedule of this evening, but before I do that, I want to take a break for a brief trivia question. And I was going to share a poll, but the polls aren't working right now. So what I'm going to do is share the trivia question with you and have you, if you know the answer, write the correct answer into the chat. And at the end of the night, if you guess correctly, we're going to raffle off a couple of prizes to folks that answer our trivia correctly. So to start us off tonight, our first question is related to our local farms. And the question is, farms in Jefferson County produce roughly 45% of the global seed supply of what crop? We'll let you know the answer at the end. All right, so for tonight, we're going to spend the next 15 minutes giving you a brief presentation of our program areas, focusing on water, wildlands, rural lands, and cities and towns. And after that, we're going to spend some time breaking out into small breakout groups where you'll have the chance to visit with each program lead and have a group conversation about some of the pressing issues that each program seeks to tackle. So after going through those rooms, we'll meet back here for some closing remarks and next steps for community action and collaboration. And with that, I'll hand it over to Ben to give you an overview of our programs.
Thank you, Caitlin. Before introducing our programs, let's take a quick step back and connect to why LandWatch does its work. So we operate from 4 core beliefs. We believe that the land, the river, and wild living things have intrinsic value and are also essential for human well-being. We believe that our region's lands must be defended from urban sprawl and inappropriate resource extraction. We believe that the benefits and burdens of land use policy and decision-making should be distributed equitably. In the spirit of sustainability, we believe in the need to think and plan multiple generations ahead. Those beliefs lead us to this vision for the future, that well-planned cities and wild open spaces are mutually connected. In our ideal future, regional growth will be managed and directed for the benefit of people and the protection of nature. Our towns and cities will serve all their residents well and will remain compact, vibrant hubs of life. Land and water will be available to meet the needs of working farms, ranches, and forests that produce food and timber, and wildlands, rivers, and streams will sustain native plants and animals. Many years from now, our region retains its wildness and beauty. The cold, clear waters of the rivers and streams teem with fish, Migrating mule deer and elk move freely across their range. The night echoes with the sound of frogs. Doesn't that just sound lovely? I think so. These values and this vision led us to define our mission, which is to defend and plan for Central Oregon's livable future. This livable future, one with compact, well-planned cities that protect wild open spaces, led us to define the following program areas: water, wildlands, rural lands, and cities and towns. So with that, I'll hand it over to Caitlin, who will introduce first our Cities and Towns program.
Thanks, Ben. I'm excited to talk with y'all a little bit about the Cities and Towns program and give you a brief overview. So our goal with this program is to ensure that Oregon's cities and towns have compact, complete, and vibrant neighborhoods that are accessible to all. As Central Oregon is growing, we want to use land use planning to create new solutions to lift up voices from throughout our communities. And we believe involvement in the local planning process, including urban growth boundary decisions and comprehensive planning, is key to shape how our neighborhoods look 10, 20, 50 years in the future. So one example of LandWatch's work was the involvement in Bend's urban growth boundary expansion. In 2008, the city of Bend proposed a plan to greatly expand Bend city limits by over 8,000 acres. LandWatch was concerned that the original proposal didn't take public interest into consideration and was focused on creating expensive, sprawling development rather than meeting community needs. So LandWatch worked in collaboration with stakeholders and the public to advocate for a plan that added housing capacity to the city by identifying opportunity areas for growth inside city limits while simultaneously reducing outward sprawl by 70%, allowing for more renewal and investment within city limits and neighborhoods close to where people work and rely on services. Essentially, our goal is to communicate that we are all about reducing a commute time for our own health and for the health of the planet. A current initiative of the Cities and Towns program is focusing on the development of Bend's Central District. This is an area that's been identified as a way to develop and a space to develop more complete housing and a complete community, one that incorporates a variety of housing options and businesses and multimodal transportation options and open space to create a vibrant, inclusive, and equitable neighborhood. For example, something that we might see in a rendering such as this. And we are currently working on community advocacy for the development of safer, more efficient, and more welcoming crossings in Midtown to connect East and West Bend. So this is an example of the crossing at Franklin, what it does look like and what it potentially could look like. And if you've ever biked down Franklin Avenue or walked across Greenwood during rush hour, you might be interested in getting involved in our work to improve these crossings. So we know that promoting vibrant and compact neighborhoods means that we have a better chance of protecting our wildlife, our open spaces just outside of our cities and towns. So with that, I'll let Ben fill you in on the Water and Wildlands program.
Great. Thanks again, Caitlin. So our Water and Wildlands program is focused on ensuring that our region's water and wild places are protected to support biological diversity and critical wildlife habitat. LandWatch brings its expertise and legal skills to defend and strengthen policy and legal protections for the region's natural resources. We are a legal voice for our region's wild ecosystems, including their fish and wildlife, water quantity and quality, and native forests. Some of our recent efforts include protecting the Ochoco National Forest from hundreds of additional ATV roads and halting efforts to log thousands of acres in critical elk and riparian habitat. Another ongoing effort is pushing for a strong and enforceable habitat conservation plan for the Deschutes River. This plan, which will define how the river is managed for the next 30 years, is central to whether our river remains a cold water refuge for its fish and frogs as the climate changes. These accomplishments require intimate knowledge of the landscape, the governing laws that hold agencies accountable to conservation management objectives, and strong public participation from LandWatch's dedicated advocates who respond to our calls for action and truly make all the difference. So now I'll introduce to you our Rural Lands program. For this program, our goal is to ensure our region's rural lands are protected for open space and livelihoods in forestry, farming, and ranching. LandWatch serves as the land use watchdog, challenging and defending against inappropriate development. We ensure effective implementation of Oregon's land use laws that protect Central Oregon's rural community character, scenic views, productive agriculture, clean water, and fresh air. On our watch, the line will remain clear between when leaving town and coming into the country. To do this, our legal team, Carol, Rory, and Paul, review thousands of development applications each year, looking for proposals that would fragment farm and forest land, resulting in rural sprawl. Stepwise, when we see applications that would result in development that defies Oregon's land use system, we raise our concerns to the county governments in Deschutes, Crook, and Jefferson. If a county approves development that sets a dangerous precedent, we appeal to higher courts, the Land Use Board of Appeals, the Court of Appeals, and even Oregon's Supreme Court. It's this work that LandWatch has built its reputation around, being willing to use legal might to stand up for Oregon's future when the stakes are too high not to. We have several active appeals that I'm not at liberty to discuss, but one priority I will share is our effort to permanently protect Skyline Forest from ever being developed. If anyone has a cool 127 million that they're sitting on and would like to put it toward protecting 33,000 acres just west of Bend, have I got an opportunity for you? This property is on the open market, and we're in a conversation with the owners to find a permanent conservation solution that protects this forest land once and for all. With that, I'll hand it over to Caitlin to explain the next portion of our event, our open house community conversation.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. All right, so I'm going to explain the second portion of this event, but before I do, I wanted to share one more trivia question with you all. And I will say we had a couple of correct answers come in on the chat for the first question. So to give you that answer now, Jefferson County produces 45% of the global seed supply for carrots. So those of you that answered carrots correctly, congratulations. For the second question or trivia question tonight, there was recently a report released by ODFW about the wolf population in Oregon. So according to this recent report, no Googling allowed, how many wolves called Oregon home last winter? And I'll give y'all a range of 10 wolves on either side. So if you have a good guess, put it in the chat and I'll announce that answer in just a little bit. All right, so for the second portion of this event, we want to hear from you. And we are going to spend some time in breakout rooms again, and I'll make sure everyone gets to the right breakout room. And for the second portion of this event, we're going to do an open house style roundtable discussion for each program area. So you'll be in a breakout room with a small group. I've set them up. They're between 10 and 15 folks. Someone just answered the chat correctly. Good job about the wolves. So you'll be in a group with just a small group, and you'll spend about 10 minutes with LandWatch staff talking about your thoughts, dreams, and concerns for each program area. And here's the good part. Again, you don't have to do anything. Just click join, and I'll do the work on my end. So before we jump into those rooms, I'll let you know the topic areas and the questions for each. So our first room will focus on water. And specifically, when discussing the health of our rivers and streams, we want to ask the question, why are Central Oregon's rivers and streams important to you? And importantly, how could they be better managed? Our second room will focus on our Wildlands program and ask a very similar question about the state of our federal public lands. Why are Central Oregon's public lands important to you? And how could or should they be better managed? Our third room will focus on our rural lands, our agriculture and resource lands dedicated to farms and forestry. And here we will ask, why is local farmland important to you? And what can we do to support and sustain our local agriculture? You know, this is an important question. And finally, our last room, focusing on our cities and towns, we will ask, what makes a livable city? And what are the components of a vibrant city or town? So with that, Ben, do you want to introduce LandWatch staff in each room?
Happily. So in room one, where the conversation will focus on water issues, you'll be joined by LandWatch staff Todd Heisler, our Rivers Program Director, and Kavi Chakshi, our Membership and Engagement Manager. In room two, the conversation will center on Wildlands, and you'll be joined by LandWatch staff Rory Isbell, staff attorney, and Nathan Hovekamp, Wildlife Program Director. In room 3, conversation around rural lands. You'll be joined by Carol Macbeth, staff attorney, and Corey Sparks, operations director. And in room 4, where we're discussing cities and towns, you'll be joined by Moe Newbold, director of urban planning, and yours truly. So while Caitlin is setting up our breakout rooms, I wanted to take a quick moment to just sort of talk about the inspiration for tonight's event. So as you heard Karen, our board president, and Caitlin mention, our LandWatch team of staff and board spent about 6 solid months really digging into the role we play in Central Oregon's conservation fabric and what our unique niche is. And through that, we came out with this strategic plan that we're really excited to have help us guide our path forward. So tonight is about the sort of overview, high level, give you a sense of what's in that plan and what's in store for this organization, what you can count on us for. And in the subsequent months, we'll have presentations that will focus on different elements specific to each of our programs, which we just talked about, which you'll hear more about later tonight from Caitlin. Caitlin, how are our breakout rooms coming along?
They're all set up. Y'all ready for
Great.
this? All right, I'm going to open up the rooms and you'll see something on your screen pop up and just click accept and you'll be in a small group and talk about each program area. We'll see you on the other side and report back here in a little bit. Welcome back, everyone. I was following along the notes that everyone was taking, and it sounds like there was some good conversation and some good ideas out there. Everyone will be back here in about just a minute. And we have 2 trivia winners that I will announce in a bit while we're waiting for everyone to come back here.
I think you should continue this, even if things do go back to the way they were, because you reach a lot of people this way.
Yeah, a lot of people really like attending events from the comfort of their own home. So
yeah, I think so.
All right, are we back?
We are. I think every room is back. There might be a couple folks, but I think looks like we're all back. So Ben, take it away.
All right. Well, welcome back all, and thank you to everyone for being open to sharing. At least in our room, the cities and towns room, it was clear that people are not shy to share their opinions, which is fantastic. And it helps LandWatch to understand what our community cares about and, thus help us to shape the direction of our work. So thank you for all of your input. We are going to spend just a few moments getting truly the highlights from the conversations that were shared now. So I'll invite all of our room leads to share what those themes were. And then after tonight, we'll follow up with an email that's sort of a recap of tonight, and it will include more of a more thorough summary of what was shared. So we'll go high level here, and we'll go in order from room 1 down to 4, room 1 being water. Todd and Covey, would you care to synthesize for us some of those key themes?
Yeah, I can start if that's okay, and then let Todd fill in anything I missed. So our question was, why are Central Oregon's rivers and streams important to you, and how could they be better managed? And so in terms of important, we had a couple different kind of things come up. So recreation, wildlife, drinking. One thing that came up that I thought was really good was water is the currency of this area, especially because we live in a desert. So that was something that while there were other impacts too, like wildfire, animals need it. So those are some of the things that came up. And then in terms of better management, the kind of topic that came over and over again is just that we have outdated water rights systems, kind of this misframing of it as like frogs versus farmers, which isn't completely accurate. And then also two other things that came up was that creating a culture of conservation in terms of managing water better, and also creating incentives for senior water rights holders. So those were a few of the main things that came up. Todd, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, people were we're kind of interested to know, so what are we going to do? What's the plan? And the plans in water are kind of long-term in trying to address the waste part of our Oregon statute and try to get water managed that way and create an incentive for senior water right holders to not waste water. But in the meantime, we have to rely on the only tools that we have at our disposal, and that happens to be the Endangered Species Act. So we'll be pursuing that through the Habitat Conservation Plan to maximize the benefits for our streams and rivers.
Great. Thank you. Well, let's hear from room 2, Wildlands. Rory and Nathan, I imagine you had a great conversation. What was shared?
We did have a lot of great conversation. Heard a lot of values that people have for our public lands in Central Oregon, and got some ideas on how folks think they could perhaps be better managed. Quickly, some themes we heard are people really value just having open space near where they live, kind of a release that it's been highlighted in the COVID pandemic of being able to go out and get in nature so conveniently from where we live, and building that connection with nature that can help build a culture of stewardship when you build your own reasons for appreciating our wildlands. We heard about values for the wildlife habitat and the ecosystem-based management value for our wildlands that people appreciate. And then we also heard about the impacts of recreation and overuse, and with so many more people in our region using those lands, how do we find that balance of building a connection to our public lands, but also protecting the resources that we value so much, the ecosystems and habitat that they provide. And then we had, in our last breakout room, we started talking about how to build a better culture of stewardship. This came up in other rooms too, about education of where our public lands are and the values they provide, and how they're managed, and how culturally, even in like advertising, we can, as a society, build more appreciation for our wild places.
Great, thank you.
Nathan, feel free to add anything else if you want.
I think you captured it, Rory. There were some specific examples too, and there are hundreds of individual little reasons and values that we all gain from immediate access to public lands where we are. I would say that we take them for granted, but probably we don't, and appreciate all those. As a young man myself, growing up in North Carolina and Ohio, when I wanted to go out for a leg stretcher, it generally meant trespassing. But out here in the West, the ability to walk on public lands, and with my sons talking about, look around you boys. This land is partly yours, and you bear a responsibility for its stewardship as well. But I found in our conversations that there's hundreds of tangible and intangible benefits to this shared treasure and responsibility.
Great. Thank you both. Let's hear from room 3, Rural Lands. Carol and Corey, what was shared?
We heard a lot about local food and how important it was to everyone in our rooms. Over and over again, people said how much they appreciate that, and pointed out that it's really a privilege for us to have organic and safe and good food, fresh food. And so many people appreciated their CSAs, and over again, we heard about locavore. And we heard about Tom McCall and the land use planning system and how much it's contributed to keeping these lands in farming for future generations, and allowing young people to go out and start farming because their land is there. And Corey was writing down lots of particulars.
Yeah, that was a really good overview. So there's just a couple other things of note. Of course, great open space and habitat for wildlife, and generally like community resilience and reducing climate change and overall impact. And there was a lot of appreciation, like Carol said, for the land use system itself. And when you're in Oregon, you know that there's a distinct line when going from urban to rural. And that's really valuable for a lot of reasons. And of course, to echo what
how to support: buy local, go to Locavore, sign up for CSAs, eat at restaurants that serve local food, and support legislation that helps small farms. There's some legislation that is a little threatening at the moment, so we talked about that in some groups as well. But mostly a lot of appreciation for the land use system and our local food.
We had one really great idea though that I can't remember who said it, but it was that just like the Monterey Aquarium makes a list of what fish are good to eat, that we should put on our website perhaps a list of, like, you know, where you can go to get local food, what you can do to support local food, like where can you go to become in a CSA, and what restaurants are serving what local foods.
Ben, you're muted.
Got it. Thank you. That's fantastic. I was muted because my dog was barking, so apologies for that. Really good stuff. And Moe, I was taking notes, but do you want to start by sharing any of the themes that you heard, and then I can sort of summarize as well?
Sure. Yeah, I loved the conversations we had. They were great. I feel good being in the community with you all. You know, lots of people interested in walkability and bikeability and being able to, you know, walk down the street to get what they need or not feel like they have traffic crowding them. And we talked a little bit about what are the different like parts of town that can be enhanced to, you know, add pocket parks, add community gathering spaces so that you don't have to drive super far to get somewhere. And then nature in the city was a huge theme around like making sure we keep our trees and our as much dark sky as we can. There's a lot of other stuff that goes into it. I mean, housing is a huge one, like a cultural and diverse neighborhoods where, you know, people are interacting with each other. So it was great.
Great, thanks. Yeah, just looking at my notes here, a few others. Urban wildlife, being able to see and be connected to wildlife is important. A lot of talk about the trees and the urban forest, connection to nature and green space, the importance of having human diversity and cultural amenities, a city that is multicultural. And then something else I'll share, which I really appreciated, someone introduced us to the orange juice test, which is, would you send your child to the grocery store on their own, even if it's a 10-minute walk away? If yes, you're living in a livable community. So that was really interesting. But yeah, also just tons of great insights. And it's just nice to hear from this many members of the community who resonate with LandWatch's approach to our Cities and Towns program. So thanks to everyone for your contributions. So, I'm going to turn it over to Caitlin, who has a last poll to share.
Thanks so much for doing that. And it was fun to watch the notes, and I saw the orange juice test pop up and wasn't quite sure what it was. So I appreciate that. So one thing I wanted to get some feedback from y'all on is just which of these program areas do you feel like resonates with you personally the most? And we know that all of these programs work in tandem together. That's why we wanted to spend some time with each group, spending time with different programs to understand that in order to have Wildlands, we need cities and towns programs. And in order to have a successful water program, we need to understand how all of these things work together. But we also know that then people have like the niche things that they deeply care about. And so I wanted to ask y'all if you would be willing to share with me privately in the chat, if there is a specific program that resonates with you. And if so, we can work on getting folks involved and engaged in those specific programs. The second thing I wanted to do is talk a little bit tonight about a couple of ways to stay involved. And so we at LandWatch are working on a variety of different things, but there's a couple of ways that are really key in kind of keeping up with our projects and what we're working on. And the first thing you can do is, if you aren't already signed up for our email newsletters, it's a great place to get started. It's really where we rely on bringing the community together. We often send out action alerts via email when we need community support. For instance, this spring during the legislative session, we've had a number of bills where we really need to rely on folks to reach out and contact a legislator in support or in opposition to a bill that we think is really critically important for Central Oregon. So that's an example. We also use that listserv to gather volunteers for a specific local project or to really get those messages out into the community. So if you haven't already signed up, you can sign up for that on our website at COLW, Central Oregon Land Watch, COLW.org. You can also send me your email privately in the chat here, and I'll make sure that you get added to that email listserv. The second thing that we have coming up is we have a couple of events that, while this event was a big broad sweep of the different programs in general, we really want to get in depth for folks that are interested in some of the specific program areas. So these are a couple of upcoming events that we have getting really targeted into some of our work on forests, our work on the Deschutes River, farming, and complete communities. So if one of these rooms tonight really resonated with you, feel free and you can RSVP on our website and register for some of these upcoming events. And finally, I want to hand the mic over to Kavi, our membership and engagement manager, to talk with you briefly as we wrap up tonight's event about how you can support the organization with a financial contribution. So Kavi, the screen is yours.
Thanks, Caitlin. And I just want to start by saying a big round of applause to Caitlin and team for putting this together, to all the LandWatch staff, current and past, who worked so hard over the years to get the organization to where it is today, to our new executive director, Ben, the right leader at the right time, and to all of you for being here today. So hi again, everyone. My name is Kavi Choksi, and I joined as the membership and engagement manager 2 months ago. As the newest member of the LandWatch team, I'm really excited to be here today. Over the past 2 months, I've had a chance to learn firsthand how serious, committed, and dedicated everyone at LandWatch is. They genuinely care about defending what we all love about this region and work hard to do so. As we've all seen over the past hour and a half, there are some really big challenges for our region, and LandWatch has an important role to play. And LandWatch can only do the work it does with community support. So I'll share that I've never worked for a nonprofit before, and here are 3 things I've been surprised to learn. The first one is that I used to think that nonprofits got most of their funding from foundations and grants. In fact, the majority of our funding comes from individual donors and sustaining members, on average more than 75%. Secondly, compared to for-profits, it's a different mentality. We consciously spend every dollar we raise to ensure maximum impact. And lastly, unlike for-profit companies, there's no alternate option. There's no other watchdog group doing what we're doing. We are the only organization ensuring that everyone is following the established land use laws. If we don't do it, it doesn't get done. So it is with all of that in mind that I want to share what I'm excited about. We are officially kicking off our 2021, almost done with COVID, fundraising drive. And I'm even more excited to announce that an extremely generous donor has agreed to match every donation, dollar for dollar, up to $50,000. So right now, Caitlin is going to drop a link in the chat to our special challenge match campaign page. So you can open it up if you're able to, and I'll explain what it means. This means if you give a $500 donation right now, LandWatch will get $1,000. This means if you sign up as a sustaining member at $20 a month, LandWatch will receive almost $500 over a year. So the way I would ask you to think about whether or not to support or how much to support is this. Based on everything you've heard and seen today and discussed in your breakout rooms, how important is it to you to help protect Central Oregon's unique characteristics? The wildlands, the wildlife, the beautiful water, the vibrant communities. Here's your chance to support that vision while doubling your impact. You can sign up with a monthly membership or one-time donation. So even your $10 or $20 a month membership will be doubled for the whole year. Over the coming days, I'll be sending some updates on the challenge match. So I hope you'll consider being a part of it. Okay, that's all the time I have. Thank you for your attention, and I'll hand it back over to Caitlin.
Thanks, Kavi. I have a couple of winners to announce from our raffle. So I'll go ahead and announce names, and then I'll follow up with you via email. Answering our farm question correctly is Dottie Wiley. Congratulations on knowing that carrots are produced in Jefferson County. 45% of the global seed supply is produced there in Jefferson. And our second question, answering correctly off by 3 wolves, was Hillary Garrett, answering that there are 176 wolves currently in Oregon. The correct answer is 173, but we can guess that maybe ODFW missed 3, so it's probably closer to 176. So I'll reach out to both of you. Congratulations. We'll have an arcade belt for you, and I'll hand it off to Ben to close us finally for the evening.
Right, thank you. Well, friends, this concludes tonight's open house. While the program is over, it's our sincere hope that what you learned and discussed tonight piqued your interest to deepen your engagement with LandWatch. We have our work cut out for us to defend and plan for Central Oregon's livable future, and it's going to take everybody's hard work to ensure that as our region grows, it evolves in ways that continue to make us proud to call Central Oregon home. Thank you so much for being here tonight. It's been a fantastic honor spending this evening with you. Good night, and hope to see you again soon. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.